continue. We launched November 13th from the base of Hoover. And as much as you would think we want to start putting miles down to make up, because it's a long way to go and a lot of dams to portage, yeah, every time I launch through there, it doesn't matter if it's speed or whatnot, I got to play tours because you're in memory lane. And if you've never been, go. Upper Black Canyon is absolutely gorgeous. I'm actually in a 17-foot Perception Eclipse sea kayak. It's what I use for racing a lot of stuff. It's kind of a heavy boat, but it can take a pounding. I put it through pounding. My mom's paddling the white kayak's a, what's the model? It's an Old Town?
No, it's not Old Town. It's, yes.
It's a Cape Town.
It's called, yes.
No, it's not.
It's a 50-foot sea kayak that I bought off Craigslist that was actually in a local, somewhat local thrift store I bought for like $300 a couple years ago. Got his deal on that one. The other two kayaks, the other kayaks are actually rentals from the Post Exchange up at the base that Gary brought down, or excuse me, Wayne brought down that he got a really ripping deal on. When we reached Willow Beach, Kathy and my mom took out because they had to go back to the pretend world with jobs and traffic and people while Wayne and Gary and I stayed in the real world on the river. I don't know what I'm talking preaching to the choir when I say that. So the plan was they're going to stick with me all the way down to Davis Dam. At this point, we're about 62 miles north of Davis Dam. While we were there, I also talked to a river guide I know named Scott Morris who gave me the latest weather update. Because have you been on Lake Mojave? What's the one thing you get a Lake Mojave guaranteed? Wind. Big time. Oh, I had it. That day that we were there at Willow Beach, that day was supposed to be absolutely gorgeous. The next day, the wind was supposed to be kicking up in the afternoon with a major winter storm coming through on Sunday night. And then Monday was just supposed to be a tempest. So we figured that today was a gift and tomorrow we're going to have to earn it. We came up with a plan that we were just going to paddle as far as we could and try to make Cottonwood Cove about 36 or so miles down and try to make it there before the storm came in. Otherwise, there's a very good chance we're going to be where we're stuck at. We're there till probably Monday evening or Tuesday because of the storm. Almost happened. So that evening we were able to paddle down about 17 miles just past El Dorado Canyon. Spent the night, and the next day we still had fairly calm weather, and we paddled on. When we finally made it about 5 miles north of Cottonwood Cove, we stopped for a quick break, and the wind went from about 15 miles an hour or so to, come on, 40 miles an hour within 3 minutes. So that night the storm came in and we had lots of rain, lots of wind, and even an electrical storm. And it got down to about 30 degrees. It got cold. Of course, I read what the high is going to be in Hamilton, and I'm going, that's still cold. It's the same temperature, but we're in cold snap. I woke up about 4 in the morning, as I have a habit of getting up really early out of necessity when kayak camping. Check my VHF for the local weather forecast, and kind of noticed it's a little bit calm outside. This is not what we were hearing last night. Of course, the weather changes all the time, especially in that area. I woke up Wayne, much to his chagrin, and we talked a little bit. He texted his wife, and she came back confirming we had about a 3-hour weather window to make it to Cottonwood Cove. So we broke camp, packed the kayaks just as quick as we could, got dressed in our wetsuits and kayak gear in 30-degree weather, needless to say, cold. Got in there, busted nonstop, went down the 5 miles to Cottonwood Cove, made it through the Narrows, which is always just lots of fun. Every time I go, I've never paddled through there when it's calm. And we still had some wind and some waves coming, but it was all manageable. We made it down to Cottonwood Cove, you can see right here. We made it there about 7:30 in the morning, just in time for a cafe to open. Breakfast, bacon. Made it there after breakfast. Wayne and I were talking, and he went ahead and kind of talked to Gary a little bit. Gary's 15 years old. This was his first kayak camping trip, and he was in for a doozy. He'd been holding his own very well. He'd been doing extremely well on this trip, but Wayne kind of had a feeling, and he talked to Gary. Gary admitted that the cold that night and the wind had been wearing him down, and he knew that we still had 2 more days of fun to go make it down to Davis. So he made a very mature and wise decision and decided he better pull out there, because he's going to probably put himself in danger and run us even later. And he decided to pull out. Of course, Wayne being the dad, stayed with him. Wayne texted his wife, said, come pick us up. She lives in Joshua Tree, so it's only about a 4-hour drive only. But she was actually coming up anyways, because they thought we were scheduled to take out of Davis Dam the next day. So I very, very reluctantly bid farewell to them and left. The team was breaking up, you know? And it was a necessity, but was not happy about that. But I had a river to paddle. So busted out of there, left Cottonwood Cove. Wind was still fairly calm. Made it about 6 miles. I was hoping to make it down to the bottom part of Lake Mojave, bottom of the wide part of Lake Mojave. I made it 6 miles before the wind picked up again. And when the wind was blasting, I like to describe it for a weird way this way. It was blowing out of the northeast, and to know what it feels like, we've all been in heavy wind, but I just love this metaphor. Take your kayak, sit on the ground, of course it should be on the ground. Sit in your kayak and stick a leaf blower about 10 feet behind you and turn it on full. That was what the wind felt like that today. I don't know how much it was blasting. I don't know how big those waves were. All I know I was doing a whole lot of this. And it was coming in at an angle out of the northeast, and I'm heading due south, so I've got it coming basically this way. So just a lot of this action. I made it. I went, you know what? Had about enough at one point because the wind just picked up more. The waves got a little too big. I'm solo. When I'm alone on an expedition like that, I am not a brave man. I am very cautious. I want to live. I'd rather live than brag. Because at one point you can only brag to St. Peter. He's going to go, Made it down to 6 miles, decided to find a good campsite. I picked very wisely because you can see right here, you can see a little shape right there. Outhouse. Like that. Spent the night there. Next morning, woke up, and this was going to be a daily routine. Woke up well before sunrise, packed the boat, get it ready to go. My intention was try to make Davis Dam that day. At this point, I was 16 miles from Davis Dam. I want to punch it all the way down there. I made 1.5 miles.
Oh, gee.
The waves were surprisingly how big because the wind was fairly calm for out there. But then it just started picking up after I was on the water only maybe 15 or 20 minutes. And it was blowing again at an angle this way to the shore. So it makes a real fun ride. At one point I was about 40 feet from the shore, and water should have been about 4 feet deep, and I had a wave come over. It was so large that my kayak dropped. The depth of the water just dropped, and I got high-centered on a big rock. Couldn't maneuver. Here comes the wave. I'm like, uh-oh. Well, it all happens like that, just a few seconds. Couldn't maneuver. Wave started to pick up the bow of the kayak. I went up. I did what's called PLH, paddle like hell, up the face of the wave, knocked the kite over, moved the kayak this way, washed over me, bent the rudder on the kayak, and I managed, Luckily, the rudder wasn't bent that much. I made it maybe a few hundred more yards till the strip of land that comes out like this. Goes at a very slight angle, and you've got the waves rushing over. That creates the waves breaking. I'd have to make it out there and go way out into the lake than I care for to make it around, make sure I wouldn't get high centered again. And at that point, I went, okay, not making Davis Dam today. Puts me a day behind. I decided to pull into shore. Luckily, my rudder was not bent that much. I was able to bend it back into place. And normally, you know, I kind of frown on use of a rudder. It's kind of like I consider a lack of skill if you have to depend on a rudder all the time. But yeah, we share a good opinion there. But I love my boat, but you can just like that, and the thing weathercocks. So the rudder is very nice for tracking, especially when it's fully loaded like it was with 300 pounds of gear and paddler. Had a day to kill. A lot of time to kill. And here's a little slice of my day killing time waiting for the wind to chill.
Hi, my name is Cal Sunspot, and have I got a deal for you? That's it right here. Acres and acres of beachfront property on the shores of Lake Mojave, where the wind never blows. I'm on a little teeny island, and I want to vote myself on. So, I don't. I will run out of trail mix and be forced to eat myself. I love myself. I am in a dilemma. I love my life. I'm going to give motivational speaking. My lectures will be called, "What the hell were you thinking?" This is living. This event makes cool stories. And I am thoroughly loving it. Yes. I am. Cool stuff.
Here's my true mood at the end of the day.
Not been a good day. I've unloaded the BAMP boat, and the water's chilled out. Made the call to camp here when I wanted to go over there, and the water's chilled out. Every day of an expedition's got one like this. Hopefully this is the only one.
That had to frustrate you.
A bit. You saw my face right there. You definitely heard the tone of my voice. I like to say that I have a great relationship with the river. It just likes to test me a lot. And I have a great relationship with the wind. It's just a dysfunctional relationship, especially this trip. Next morning, woke up. Well, as I said earlier, is my daily routine. Woke up well before sunrise, got on. Water was calmish, wind was calm-ish. I had 15 miles to paddle to Davis Dam, and I punched it. Made it down probably about 8 miles from the dam when I decided to make a crossing. At that point, Lake Mojave goes from wide and narrows up about 10 miles all the way down to Davis Dam. When I started making a crossing, I figured out about a little short than 2 miles to kind of go at an angle. When I was out in the middle of the lake, my buddy decided to help too much, and he went dysfunctional on me. In comes the wind. And so it was blowing hard enough and the waves coming big enough, it was coming straight out of the north that I was doing this bit again, big waves. And again, by myself, so I'm just praying out loud a whole bunch. And it ended up just short of 2 mile crossing turned into a 5 mile sprint. And I aimed for Telephone Cove, which is about 2 miles north of Davis Dam. And this is just a sample of the water I was going through that I could pull footage for. Where I had time to click the GoPro to go turn on.
Oh, this is choppy, wavy as hell.
You laugh.
Whee! Oh yeah, it's fun. Oh shit. Oh, that's really buried my front end.
You can see the bounce.
Quite literally around that point, and 2 miles down, around that point, is Davis Dam. But the weather, there's too many white caps, boats zipping around, it's creating too difficult conditions to safely make it down there. I am eye shot. If I went over there, I could see it.
So, for safety reasons, I'm going to have to take out of Catherine's Landing. Because the plan was to go down to Davis and come back up here, but it's getting too dangerous.
Too dangerous. When I made it around Telephone Cove, I could see Davis Dam. I could see part of it. But river wasn't going to let me have it that day. If I went down to Davis Dam and paddled back up, I'd be paddling against that wind, against those waves, making around a point with the reflection waves coming over, creating chop, which I have a great story when I reached Lake Havasu about that. It was just going to be too dangerous, so I could, you know what, river wasn't going to let me have it that day. Took out at Catherine's Landing, which is Arizona side, as I said, only 2 miles north of the dam. From there, I met Helen Howard from Desert River Kayak that picked me up. Let me mention.
The one that put our black.
Oh yeah, she remembers y'all's name. Matter of fact, when you asked me, or you asked a question about when I 2 weeks ago, made a comment or quite a question about the presentation, and I was reading out loud on Facebook. I was sitting next to her in a moving van after a weekend trip through Picacho.
Okay.
And she goes, I know that name, yeah, Valley Wide Kayak Club. So she's got an incredible memory. But just to mention that Desert River Kayak is a very strong supporter of the Bow South expedition. They're the one that delivered the team down to the base of Davis Hoover Dam, and they volunteered their services to move me around Davis Dam and to run any supplies in case of emergency or pickup, in case something bad happens during the rest of the stretch of the river if my support crew isn't able to make it. They are fantastic support. I'm really glad to have their services. And with that completion, 64 miles. That comes the next section of the expedition. Davis Dam down to Parker Dam at the bottom of Lake Mojave. The distance is 80-ish to 90 miles there. The very next morning, I launched from the base right there at Davis Camp, at pretty much the base of Davis Dam. You can see right here in a picture, here's me loading the kayak before the sun comes up. Jumping right here is Harry Fisher from Desert River Kayak. He's the one that drove me over and waved bye to me as I went on. And just as I got on the river, the sun was about to come up, and when I reached the Laughlin Strip, got to take some really great pictures of the sun coming out and the reflections, and I'm just paddling along going, this is really neat. It was just a gorgeous day. And I just remember kind of thinking, you know, I'm making really good time through down Laughlin Strip. And as it turns out, I was riding a pulse flow out of the dam, which incidentally, just south of the Laughlin Strip, creates a chute and a big hydraulic that I didn't know about till I was pretty much on top of it.
This is gonna get rough.
The hydraulic, if you pass the wedge, this is the hydraulic. It's basically like the big whirlpool that's above Rotary Park in Bullhead. It's pretty big. And
didn't expect that this morning.
that'll wake you up quicker than a cup of cowboy coffee, let me tell you. Just cruise along going, and normally I'd love to play in the water like that, but I've got over 100 pounds worth of gear in the kayak, and 210 pounds worth of paddler in a 17-foot sea kayak does not make it the most nimble and maneuverable of boats real quick. And I couldn't quite, by the time I came up on it, I couldn't get the line I wanted. You saw me kind of going a little too far to the right. And there was, you lost the video, you could see with some really strong current going this way, because I basically skimming the edge of the hydraulic, and I did not want to get caught on that. It's like a boil on steroids in some ways. Or think of it as a sideways whirlpool, the way it acts. The rest of the trip went fairly smooth. It was a fantastic day. The plan was to paddle 43 miles down to Park Mowabi, just below Needles, and I made it there by 3:30 in the afternoon. It was just, water was great. The wind was helping that day. It was non-dysfunctional that day. I had about a 12-mile-an-hour breeze out of the north just pushing me along, and made it to great time down to Park Mowabi, which was great because I needed extra sleep. The next day I had to launch even earlier than I normally do on the expedition. I had to get on the river before sunrise, and get on there while it's still dark out, because I had to meet a reporter from today's News Herald of Havasu City. Mary sure I got to get the name right, because I had to meet him over by London Bridge so he could do a quick interview and do a write-up on the Bow South expedition. So next morning, launch from Park Mowabi, take some duct tape, strap a big flashlight to the top of my deck bag, use as a headlight, and was out on the river. I went underneath the I-40 bridge while there were still stars out, which means I got to go through the heart of Topog Gorge at sunrise.
Oh,
It was
that's
absolutely
nice.
still. It is absolutely one of the just highlights of the trip. The word Topog to me is a synonym for church. It was so still that day. And this is a sample of what Topog was like that this morning. Basically went straight from church to P&Bville, people and power boats. Lots of power boats and people, and after the stillness of Topog Gorge, it's kind of like mind blown. Was able to make it down by about lunchtime to meet the reporter from the newspaper. We did a quick interview, and then we got to do a selfie in front of London Bridge. Play tourists one more time, where a lot of you, I guess, were just about 2 weeks ago. We love paddling through there. Do the selfie, did the interview, pressed on about another 8 miles past Thompson Bay, stuck to the Arizona side of the lake, because it's all res on the other side and pay for camping. Made it to a place called Friendly Island to camp out for the night. And Friendly Island just had great views. I intended to just take a break there, but I looked and went, here's good. And I'd already covered 30 miles that day. I had 16 miles of river, and then I had 14 miles of lake, which means no current. Stuck it out there. You can see a picture of the moonrise. Like I said, just a gorgeous area. As it turns out, I would be spending more time there than I cared for. I woke up the next morning, wind dysfunctional on me again. And the water was manageable, but the lake narrows up about 2 miles south of me, and I didn't like the way the water looked and doing the crossing, plus the powerboat zipping up there because of a fishing tournament going on. It just wasn't, I didn't feel it. It just wasn't meant to happen. So I spent an extra day stuck on a lake, killing time, stuck on a lake again. Oh yeah. You really want to get moving. I was the worst fish for the time.
Henry and Dr. Fina.
These power boats are going by. They see the kayak. He's doing quasi yoga. They're probably figuring typical kayaker, New Age freak. Cal Sunspot here again, and have I got a deal for you? I just happen to be stuck on an island that is perfect development for your own private home and a guest house, possibly for me, with a boat to get me off. Cal Sunspot here again, and I just have an addendum to what I was saying about my island. It is called Friendly Island. It is friendly because there's nobody here to be rude. And it has its own private bathroom right here. An existing building with existing facilities. State of the art. Look at that cat. This island is literally floating on crack. I'm hungry. I miss people. I keep on getting stuck on lakes.
It is an absolutely magical morning. I just had to spend my second night on this island, and it was a bit frustrating, but I'm being rewarded for my patience and waiting out the wind, because right now I'm looking at a double sky of stars separated by a strip of land called the far shoreline. The water is still, the air is still, and I'm looking at all these reflections of the stars in the water, and it was just this is morning's way. This is morning's way. I love these trips. It is absolutely magical and worth the frustrations. So, I'm getting ready to load Slaughter Apocalypse and punch it over to Parker Dam, about 15 miles, taking about 3 or 4 hours. With luck, only 3. Portage to the dam, knock out Parker Strip. That's another, depending who you talk to, 10 or 12 miles.
What's the name?
15.
Kayak? What's the name?
I should have introduced earlier. I like to name my kayaks.
Yeah.
My first ones I call Sharktopus, and my sea kayak is named Slaughter Apocalypse. I named it after really bad sci-fi movies. Except last weekend I had to watch Whale Wolf versus Sharktopus. If you do that, if you're being forced to watch that movie or choose to, just kill yourself. End it now. It is a horrible movie. Slaughter Apocalypse. I call him Slaughter for short. I'll go ahead and call him Slaughter from there. Launching down is actually about 15 miles because I just apparently just a great gauge of where I was at and knowing how many miles, because I could say 10 miles here and the next scene I'm even say let's go 12 miles. Guesstimate. But it was about 15 miles north of the dam. Water was calm, weather was gorgeous. Made it down there and even the weather helped out. Dysfunctionally, starting about 4 miles from the dam. I made it about starting on the California side, starting about 4 miles north of Parker Dam. You've got the mountains just come straight in, so the shoreline's basically just like this at this angle. And the wind picked up out of the northeast, started sending waves my way. Again, I don't know how fast it was blowing, but it was going good, real good. When I got to the pump station right here on the California side, only 2 miles north of Parker Dam, I started having just very epic chop. The waves were probably, let's see, I sit about that tall in the kayak, so the waves were about eye level and a little bit higher. Wow. And reflecting off the mountainside created chop, and remember, I am about that tall in the kayak. The chop was above my head. It was epic. But I made it through, but I just like to say, there's a reason I don't like to buy tickets to go to Magic Mountain to ride the roller coasters. I got kayaking. And on this particular day, it was like riding a bucking horse on a roller coaster. It was just a whole lot of this. I found myself put my right hand up. Just go for the rodeo. It was the worst, biggest water I had of the entire expedition. Made it down to Parker Dam. Met my support crew. My little brother lives in Parker. My folks came over. They served as a support crew. Made it there, and the plan was that as soon as I take out of Parker Dam, go right around and knock out the 12 miles of the Parker Strip. Finish that because I was running a day late. So that's what I did. Here's a couple pictures of me launching. Within 45 minutes of taking out at Lake Havasu, I was putting in a Parker Dam. So little brother, it's just a lovely portage when you launch, go from this place, because you just gotta carry the kayak down a hill like this, and then launch this little strip of land, and launch right here, and then off I went. How many have ever paddled Parker Strip? Nobody? Don't. It is scenic, but stories you heard about power boats and jet skis is true. Lots of power boats and jet skis.
You can do it in the winter. You can do it in the winter and literally not see one power boat the entire time.
If it's a weekday. I went through there, and this was the Sunday before Thanksgiving? Sunday before Thanksgiving, and there was plenty. I won't even touch the river during the summer, especially there if you just want to pack.
Just there past winter, didn't see a power boat.
You the man. You lucked out. Was it a weekday or weekend?
It was a weekday. Yeah.
Weekday?
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
That's a nice bar right there.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, been there.
Oh yeah, they were offering me drinks when I paddled by. They're like, hey, come over drink. I'm like, no, I gotta go. And I'm not really a drinker anyways. But it was a heck of a party they were throwing at 9:30 in the morning. No wait, this was after lunch, so it was about 2 in the afternoon. Made it down, lots of power boats. Finally made it down to Headgate Rock Dam at the bottom of the Parker Strip. Took out of blue water. I've got to include this picture because my little brother, he had to bring his doxy dog, Lucy, and when she sees a camera, she just got to get in front of the thing and go, hi! And it just happens to be that my kayak seemingly photobombed the picture. That start with that, and I was pretty tired that day. I ended up doing about 28 miles. This is the next part of the expedition, Headgate Rock Dam. It's 46 miles down to Palo Verde Diversion Dam, and then it's about another 90 miles around there to Imperial Dam. This right here being Headgate Rock, right about here, is the halfway point. Launched about